Shocking truth. How the Sahara Desert is creeping into Europe. Are we too late? Find out now. The sun blazed down with an unholy glare as the little village of San Pedro felt the angry breath of the Sahara. Usually, it was just a myth whispered over fences maybe the desert would someday grow, inching its way through Spain like a slow but certain thief. But now residents were running out of time. Their homes were being swallowed. The ground beneath their feet felt alive, shifting. Dust storms raged like banshees on the wind, rising from nothing, blotting out the sun. Children cowered indoors, while their parents peered out, eyes wide with disbelief. Was it too late? Would they be the last to stand in the shade of their ancestors? Reports flooded in like water from a broken dam. People were finding desert sand in places it should never be inside their houses, beneath their beds. Farmers returned to fields scarred and parched, crops shriveled, as if the life had been drained from the very soil. Was this just bad luck? Or something far darker? The locals began to talk in hushed tones, the kind that curdled blood where fear mixed with dread. Scientists puzzled over dusty maps, frowning at lines that seemed to stretch closer and closer to the Mediterranean coast outlines of where the Sahara had been and where it was heading. At the coffee shop, voices rose, arguments broke out among neighbors. "It's a sign!" one man shouted, fists clenched, eyes darting. Nature is angry, but were they becoming fools in the face of a looming disaster? Tension hung thick, like a fog, making it hard to breathe. What did the future hold for these people? Panicked murmurs raced through the streets, picking up speed like a runaway bus. Hey! Before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon, and while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Dark rumors of an ancient curse began to swirl, warning of a punishment for neglecting the land. Were they being punished for their past sins against nature? Wild stories danced like flames in the corners of the tavern, igniting imaginations. Could losses turn into gains? Or were they simply on a journey to extinction? Closer and closer, the Sahara crept, nature's warning unmistakable, echoing in their growing anxiety. The townsfolk glanced nervously toward the horizon where shifting sands seemed to shimmer, drawing nearer every day. Eyes locked, hearts raced, but as the nightmare gripped them, the strongest of all questions burned. Could they stop this creeping beast before it claimed them? And what dangers lay hidden beneath those vast dunes, waiting for the moment to break free? The nights in San Pedro were no longer peaceful. Whispers echoed through darkened streets, stretching the limits of reality as shadows danced against the walls of homes that once felt safe. A storm loomed, not just from the sky, but from the very earth beneath their feet. Each gust of wind that blew carried a weight heavier than fear. It carried the weight of desperation and hopelessness. Maria sat on her rickety porch, holding her trembling child close. The normally vibrant village around her was becoming a ghost town. More families had left this week, driven away by the chaos unfolding before them. Her husband, Miguel, had joined the search for answers at the town hall. "We need to act now," he had told her earlier, urgency etched into his brow. But what could they do? As she looked out at the horizon, a distant glow caught her eye. Flames? No, just another dust storm, a fiery charade, mocking, teasing their hopes. "Mommy, what is happening?" Little Sophia's innocent voice pierced the silence. Maria swallowed hard, fighting the lump in her throat. "It's just the wind, honey. It will pass." But would it? Every passing day felt like one step closer to the edge of a cliff. She could almost hear the screams of regret echoing in her mind as the village lost its fight against nature. In the heart of the village, the town hall buzzed with tension. Town elders, scientists, and a handful of desperate villagers gathered, raising questions that echoed off the walls like thunder. We can't just sit here. Amelia, a farmer with dirt still on her hands, shouted. The desert is coming for us. The mayor shifted uncomfortably in his seat, wiping sweat from his brow. But what can we do? The Sahara isn't just moving. It's expanding at unbelievable speeds. That name Sahara became synonymous with doom, a monstrous entity that would swallow them whole if they didn't act soon. Eyes darted among the group, uncertainty glistening like dim stars in the night. Let us build walls, shouted someone in the back, panic rising like bile. We can keep it out. Walls 1T stop it. Another voice countered, a tremor exposing the fear behind the stubbornness. It's not just a physical force. It's a reckoning. The meeting dissolved into chaos, each idea flung into the air like accusations. Voices clashed, rising and falling like waves, each crashing harder than the last. Amidst this storm of opinions and emotions, a sudden crackle broke through the noise. The radio on the table, forgotten and dusty, sputtered to life, broadcasting a warning from the government. Significant phenomena were detected, threatening the stability of the region. With an immediate evacuation plan being set in motion, a chill swept through the room. They were not just in danger. They were on borrowed time. Maria turned to Sophia, who had fallen asleep in her arms, blissfully unaware of the storm raging around them. She couldn't allow fear to take root in her daughter's heart. But what could she do to protect her? At that moment, something shifted deep within her. We will not be victims, she whispered to herself, determination igniting her spirit. The village might be crumbling, hearts shattering, but she refused to go quietly into that dark night. A plan began to form, but she knew it would require more than courage. It would demand unity among those fractured by fear as the dust storm began to thicken, obscuring everything beyond their doorstep. Maria sensed a darker truth unraveling something more profound than destructive winds. What lay beneath the sands? Could the Sahara harbor secrets that, if unearthed, might change their fate forever? Questions hung heavily in the air. Would they band together or allow the sands to divide them? What lay hidden in the heart of the desert, waiting to be revealed? And what sacrifices would they have to make to avoid being consumed? Maria's heart raced as the wind howled outside, a monstrous beast clawing at the edges of their lives. The world felt darker, the dust swirling like angry spirits around her home. She refused to let Sophia feel the suffocating weight of despair that hung in the air. She gently laid her daughter down, tucking a worn blanket around the little girl, and stepped outside. The wind stung her cheeks, but Maria pressed on, determination propelling her forward. She approached the cluster of villagers huddled together near the town hall, their faces illuminated by the flickering glow of a single lantern. Tension rippled through them, a fear so thick one could almost taste it. Listen, Maria called, cutting through the murmurs. We can't just fold under this. We need to fight. What can we do? A man named Sebastian shouted back, his voice raw. They're telling us to leave. We're not equipped to fight a desert. We will find a way, Maria insisted. There's something under those sands. Something worth uncovering. How do we know that if we dig deeper, we won't find our salvation? Murmurs of suspicion mixed with a spark of intrigue filled the group. She saw Miguel in the crowd, his brow furrowed. Maria, this isn't a fairy tale. We've lost too much already. Then what do you propose? Her voice shook with the tension of the moment. To give up? To lose everything? We have to unite. Band together, dig and explore. We can't let fear control us. Dig? Dig where? Amelia asked, her tone skeptical, her eyes wide with worry. The earth is treacherous now. We could lose more than just our hopes. Perhaps, but we will lose everything if we don't try. Maria pleaded, standing tall despite the fear threading through the crowd. If we work together, we might uncover something: an oasis, water, resources to help fight back. Silence fell. Then, slowly, heads began to nod. All right. Let us say you're right, Sebastian relented, crossing his arms in resistance. But how do we begin? What if we dig and find nothing? Fear clawed at Maria's insides, but she pushed it aside. Then we dig deeper. We raise our voices. We will send a message, We are not going down without a fight. But we must be careful, united. As if led by an unseen force, the crowd began to disperse, murmuring among themselves as hesitant agreements formed. There was a glint of hope in their eyes, a stubborn light against the encroaching dusk. They could find strength in each other, but her stomach twisted at the thought of what lay beneath the surface. Meanwhile, the winds picked up, roaring like a beast grown angry, pulling at the threads of her resolve. The air felt alive with warnings as she glanced into the darkening horizon, where shadows shifted ominously. "Maria!" Miguel called, rushing toward her, fear etched on his face. "You need to see this. They found something buried near the old church. It might be linked to the desert." "What do you mean?" Her heart raced, pounding in sync with the swirling gusts around them. "They say it's a relic, an ancient map perhaps. If it leads to treasure or water, we might find what we need." A chill ran down Maria's spine. The winds howled again, but now they brought with them not just fear, but a flicker of desperate hope. "Let us go," she urged, turning on her heels as they raced toward the church. The air thickened, tension crackling like electricity. What secrets would they unearth? Would this map lead them to salvation, or was it yet another mirage in the relentless sweep of the Sahara? The wind seemed to rage louder, carrying an ominous whisper. What if some truths were better left buried? The church loomed ahead, its weathered stones casting long shadows under the stormy sky. With every step, Maria felt the weight of history pressing down on her. This wasn't just a building. It was a relic of her past, a witness to joys and sorrows intertwined like the roots of ancient trees. "Over here," Miguel called, pointing frantically as they approached the arched doorway. The gathered villagers looked uneasy, glancing at each other as if expecting the worst. Their whispers filled the air, the anticipation thick enough to cut. Inside, the dim light barely reached the back wall, but the flicker of candles illuminated a group of men kneeling over a strip of aged parchment spread out on the dusty floor. The relic, this map, seemed to pulse with a life of its own, whispering secrets of glory and despair. "What did you find?" Maria demanded, stepping forward despite the unease swirling inside her. One of the men, Eduardo, looked up, his face pale. "We're not entirely sure. It seems to lead to a buried site, possibly an ancient well." His voice faltered, and he swallowed hard. "But there's more. There are symbols, warnings. They talk of a curse." A chill danced down Maria's spine. "A curse? What kind of curse?" "Something about angering the spirits of the desert," he continued, his eyes wide with fear. "They say it holds the power to awaken the sands, to bring forth storms if disturbed." "What nonsense!" Sebastian spat, crossing his arms. "We can't let superstition hold us back. If there's water, but if it's a curse?" Emilia's voice trembled. "What if we unleash something we can't control? What if we dig and we enough?" Maria interrupted, her heart hammering. The tension in the room was electric. "We can't back down now. We need to find out what this means. I refuse to let fear dictate our fate." Miguel steadied her as she turned back to the map. "Look at the markings. They appear to form a path like a route through the dunes." His finger traced the lines carefully. "If we follow them, we might uncover what's hidden beneath. We can't ignore this, or we could doom ourselves." Emilia protested, desperation lacing her tone. Maria felt tears start to prick her eyes. She understood the fear, and the stakes had never felt higher. Each life in this room had been carved from love and loss, but they also lived for hope. "Listen," Maria called, gathering her courage. "Yes, there's a chance this could lead us to disaster, but the desert is taking everything we hold dear. We need to give it a fight worth remembering, a chance for us together." Slowly, heads began to nod, but doubt lingered on faces. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from outside, drawing their attention. The wind howled even more fiercely now, a roaring wave that rattled the very foundation of the church. "They're coming for us," Sebastian shouted, panic etched across his face. Who's coming?" Maria's mind raced. "It's the dust, the shifting, rising." One of the men cried, his voice breaking as he pointed outside. Maria rushed to the doorway, pushing it open. The sight took her breath away. A massive wall of swirling sand twisted toward them, an angry force threatening to engulf the town, consuming the light. This wasn't just the desert's hunger. It was a call to arms. "Get the map, we must decide now," she shouted. The storm was a reminder that they were running out of time. As they huddled together, uncertainty curling around them, Maria wondered if following the map was their salvation or the beginning of their end. The storm grew closer, the air thick with dust and the beating of her heart. How long could they hide from the truth buried beneath the sands? Were they ready to crack the surface? The real question loomed. Would they unleash a monstrosity, or find the strength to conquer the chaos? In the chaotic whirlwind, the map fluttered, its inked symbols almost alive, whispering enigmatic challenges. What awaited them at the other end of their search? The answer was buried deep, just like the fears they all shared. Maria's heart raced in time with the pounding wind. As the sandstorm approached, it became louder, a monstrous breathing creature, inching closer with every second. She could see the fear etched in the faces of the villagers, uncertainty grappling with a flicker of defiance in their eyes. "Now," she called, urgency threading through her voice. "Whatever happens, we stick together." The words were firm, but inside her, anxiety twisted like a tumbleweed. Eduardo snatched the map from the dusty floor, his fingers trembling. "We need to head towards the dunes. The markings suggest we can find the well if we move quickly." Quickly. Amelia's voice was a thin thread, laced with doubt. "With the storm closing in? Are you out of your mind?" Sebastian clenched his jaw, his fear morphing into determination. "We'll never survive the storm here. The map is our only chance." Maria nodded, rallying their collective spirit. "We've faced worse than this desert, haven't we? We're not alone. And together, we can do this." They needed more than courage. They needed conviction. Caught between the nagging doubts and the rising tide of despair, she cast a determined glance outside. The world had turned sepia, the sky a swirling mass of ochre and brown. The storm screamed, an otherworldly voice that echoed through the air, pulling at their sanity. "Let us go. We'll move to the church's back entrance and follow the path shown on the map," she exclaimed, her heart pounding louder than the storm. With one last look at the crumbling church that had sheltered their fears for so long, Maria led the hurried escape. Together, they squeezed through the narrow passage leading toward the wilderness, the wind biting at their skin like 1,000 angry wasps. The air was thick with swirling grains of sand, mixing with sweat as they raced toward the dunes. Each step felt monumental, the burden of each heart heavy with the risks ahead. The swirling dust veiled everything around them, creating an eerie sense of dislocation. "What if we're wrong?" Amelia shouted over the tempest, eyes wide with terror. "Then we'll face it," Maria replied without hesitation, keeping her gaze fixed on the horizon. And beneath the storm's fury, something deep within her ignited a flicker of hope intertwined with desperation. As they reached the base of the first dune, a thunderous roar erupted. The very earth seemed to vibrate ominously. "What was that?" someone whispered, panic spreading through the group. Maria felt her blood run cold. "It's the desert," she murmured, realizing the truth. "It's as if it knows we're here." Panic surged as the wind howled like a banshee, but they pressed on, scrambling to the top of the dune. Breathless, they paused, eyes wide. "Look," Miguel gasped, pointing toward the distant horizon. There, twisting like a serpent in the distance, was an unnatural formation, a shadowy outline contrasting against the storm. It beckoned, urging them closer while also holding a promise of dread. "The well," Eduardo exclaimed, excitement battling against fear. Maria squinted against the storm, trying to catch a glimpse of the markings on the map. "This is it." We need to. A blinding flash of light cut through the swirling chaos, illuminating the desert for a heartbeat. In that brief moment, Maria saw it, a figure, barely distinguishable, standing near the well. "Did you see that?" she shouted, her voice rising above the storm. The figure flickered, then vanished, leaving doubt as heavy as a stone in her chest. What was that? Sebastian's voice quivered, his bravado slipping. I don't know, Maria admitted, the words sticking in her throat. But they had come too far, the sands of time slipping through their fingers. Time to decide, she yelled, feeling the seconds drain away. Fight the curse or give in to fear. As the storm raged on, the answer remained as elusive as the figure in the sands. The choice lay before them, daunting and unfathomable. Would they uncover salvation or be swallowed whole by what waited beneath? The ground shook again, a reminder that some secrets yearned to remain hidden, and just like that, the angry wind whispered a single word that chilled Maria to her very core. Run. But would they run toward clarity or deeper into chaos? The answer lingered dangerously close. Maria's heart hammered against her ribs like a trapped bird as she processed the storm's chilling command. Run. She couldn't tell whether it pulsed from the hurricane winds or echoed in her mind, urging her decision. Her instincts screamed for action, for urgency. Yet, panic gnawed at her courage. Go, she shouted, summoning every thread of force she had. She turned and charged down the other side of the dune, her legs pumping through the thickening sand as if she were swimming against the current. The wind was relentless, a beast clawing at her skin, and she gasped for breath. The others followed, scrambling behind her, but the storm twisted voices around her, distant and muffled. She couldn't tell if they were shouting encouragement or cries of fear. The world around them was a swirling mess of earth and chaos, the grains stinging like tiny shards of ice as they propelled through the darkness. Maria, Eduardo's voice broke through, urgent yet strained. Slow down. He struggled to keep pace, his volume drowned by the mantra of the storm. She glanced back, her eyes catching the unnatural formation, the shadowy outline of the well looming just ahead, almost mocking them. Each step drew them closer, yet the same force brought a dreadful weight to her chest. What was waiting there? Her hesitation was a flash of doubt that skittered away as fast as the wind carried it. I want to stop, she yelled back, adrenaline fueling her. We can't turn back now. As they surged toward the well, she felt the ground tremble beneath her feet again, this time punctuating fear with power. With a glimmer of hope, she focused on the map, clutched tightly in Eduardo's hand. We're almost there. Then, without warning, something collided with her side, hard and unforgiving. Maria stumbled, falling to her knees as the sand enveloped her. She looked up to see Emilia struggling beneath the weight of panic and chaos. Help me! Maria scrambled forward, grasping Emilia's arm, pulling her into the sheltering embrace of the dune's slope. You're okay. We're okay, she promised, though her own heart screamed from the uncertainty. The wind blasted around them, but their eyes locked in that moment, a spark igniting once again. Where's the well? Emilia shouted, her breath ragged. It's like it keeps moving. Eduardo met them at the dune's crest, his face ghostly pale. I think we're losing direction. His voice trembled, battling the winds. The map clutched in his hand began to crumble in the choking air. This can't be happening, Maria cried, her heart dropping. They fought so hard to reach this place. But just as despair threatened to consume them, a flash of familiarity crossed her mind, an image from the map that was starting to blur in her memory. No, it was marked. Determined, she took the map from Eduardo and tore it open against the raging wind, squinting through the grit. Here, we just need to head. Maria. Look! She barely registered Sebastian's shout as they turned towards the well. The initial relief gave way to dread. The shape of something dark moved beside it. What is that? Miguel trembled, eyes wide. Another flash of light cut through the tempest, and there it was, a ghostly figure emerging from the storm, tall and shrouded in darkness, its features obscured. It raised a hand, finger pointing directly at them, beckoning. Run! Maria cried, though doubt clawed through her. If it was a warning or a lure, they couldn't dwell. They sprang into action, rushing toward the well as the figure began to dissolve again, leaving only a whisper on the wind. Come, stay together, Maria ordered, half redirecting, half carrying the group as they stumbled through the swirling sands. The urge to flee warred with the surge of questions that filled her mind. Were they running towards salvation or into the arms of something worse? As they neared the well, the ground felt alive, quaking beneath their steps, promising revelation or ruin. Seconds felt like hours, and every breath was a countdown. What awaited them at the well? A place of refuge or a harbinger of revelation? With hearts pounding wildly, they edged closer to the unknown, and the storm roared, drowning their thoughts in chaos. The secrets of the desert were digging deep. The truth hung heavy, just out of reach. As they grasped for it, would they find hope or despair? The figure beckoned once more, and Maria's insides twisted with a maddening pull. What lay waiting in the darkness? The wind howled louder, shredding their hopes as they stumbled toward the well, shadows draping over them like a heavy cloak. With every grain of sand that blasted against her skin, Maria could feel the looming presence of the figure, an echo pulsing in her mind, urging her toward a trap she couldn't see. "Faster! We have to make it!" Eduardo yelled, his voice barely cutting through the chaos. His determination was fierce, but the shadows around the well slithered away, revealing a darkness that felt like it could swallow them whole. "Keep moving!" Maria shouted again, fear igniting the fire in her voice. The well's silhouette loomed, a powerful magnet of fate that drew them ever closer. But with each step, Maria sensed something sinister beneath the surface, a warning that twisted inside her. Amelia, gasping, stumbled again. I can't. Her voice cracked, vulnerable like a candle flickering against the storm. Maria reached back, catching Amelia's wrist, feeling the pulse of panic echo through her own veins. "Just hold on," she urged, pulling Amelia closer to her side. Then she glanced back toward the group. Miguel was lagging, struggling against the winds. "Come on, you guys," Sebastian barked. "We won't make it if we don't hurry." Just as they pushed ahead, another tremor rippled through the ground beneath them, causing Maria's heart to lurch. The well was alive, as if it were absorbing their fears. Droplets of moisture condensed above the rim, swirling like a vortex. A low, rumbling echoed around them, weaving through the air like a sinister lullaby that mixed with nature's raging symphony. "Maria!" Eduardo shouted, pointing at the shadowy figure. It solidified again, growing larger, its form shifting like clouds in a storm. "What does it want?" "I don't know," she screamed back, adrenaline pumping hot through her body. A bizarre urge tugged at her, wanting her to reach out, to connect with whatever was waiting. But she felt the frantic pulse of danger loitering just outside their sight. In a split second, the figure vanished, draping the area in a suffocating silence. That silence shattered abruptly when a scream erupted from behind them. Miguel crumpled to the ground, clutching his leg, where something long and thin had snagged him as they rushed. "Get up! We can't stop!" Maria yelled, torn between helping him and the looming dread of the well. The storm's frantic energies shifted again. It was pulsing with a malevolence all its own. "Let me help him," Amelia cried. She darted back, but Maria felt something twist in her gut. "No, the well. We can't lose any more time." Tears brimmed in Amelia's eyes as she hesitated. "But he is hurt. Please," Maria begged, her voice raw. "We're all hurt. We can't linger here." The wind slashed across them, each gust fiercely reminding them of their fate. Shadows danced around the well, undulating with the faintest glimmers of light, each flicker like a promise mixed with a threat. Time itself felt caught in a loop, taunting their efforts with every second lost. Just as they turned back toward Miguel, a blinding flash of light engulfed them. It poured out from the well, waves of luminescence that burst through the chaos. Maria shielded her eyes, straining to understand. What awaited them in that moment? Was it salvation, a revelation cloaked in mystery, or a grim fate prepared to pounce? "Maria, look out!" Eduardo's warning cut through as the light spun, twisting shapes forming in front of them. As the storm howled, their world trembled with foreboding, and Maria felt the weight of a decision crushing her. "Do we go in?" she gasped. "Together," Sebastian yelled, and just like that together they sprung toward the well, drawn in by the force of the unknown, not knowing if they would be reborn or consumed. The secrets of the dark were unyielding, and a truth was about to dance bare before their eyes. But what would it reveal? The light enveloped them, wrapping around each of their bodies like hot silk. It wasn't just bright. It pulsed, as if it were alive and breathing, trying to draw them in deeper. Maria grit her teeth against the rush of luminous energy, the sensation of being swept off her feet mixing with the roaring winds. Just as suddenly as it began, it ended. They stumbled, unbalanced, falling into a dark abyss. For a moment, the world fell silent. An eerie stillness filled the air, a stark contrast to the chaos they had left behind. Maria blinked rapidly, adjusting to the absence of blinding light. They were in a cavern, its walls slick with moisture, glimmering like they were made of tiny stars. But there were no stars, just shadows. The shadows held secrets, and Maria could feel their weight pressing down on her. "Is everyone okay?" she whispered, her voice trembling in the damp air. She turned to her friends, finding Eduardo's face lit by an uncertain glow. "I think so. But where are we?" he murmured, glancing at the wall as if it could offer answers. Emilia was pale, trembling. "Why does it feel like we don't belong here?" Her voice quivered as desperation threaded through her words. Before Maria could respond, a low resonance vibrated through the cavern, sending shivers racing down her spine. The shadows began to shift, coiling like snakes. A voice, deep and guttural, echoed around them, penetrating the walls with its haunting clarity. "Welcome, intruders. Who is there?" Sebastian shouted, his bravado thin against trembling fear. The shadows morphed, materializing into the figure they had seen outside. The dark shape loomed before them, now clearer in the dim light. It was humanoid but twisted, with eyes staring back like two dripping pockets of pitch. "You sought the well. You found the truth and the price. What do you want from us?" Eduardo demanded, stepping forward. His defiance clashed with the terror swirling within the group. "Everything," it replied, a toothy grin unfurling across its face. "Your fears, your deepest secrets. They feed me." The realization was a punch to Maria's gut. "No," she gasped, backing away. "This was supposed to be a way out." "It is both a way out and a way in," the figure hissed, its voice slicing through the stillness. "Only those willing to confront their darkest fears shall find the light again." "What kind of sick game is this?" Miguel managed to croak, every word laced with pain. Suddenly, the shadows surged forward, rushing at them like a tidal wave. Maria felt her heart race. Visions swirled in the air, faces of friends long lost, events buried in memory, fears she had never voiced. A tempest of confusion and regret crashed against her. She was submerged in reminders of grief that clawed at her soul. "Maria," Emilia's voice cut through the chaos, thick with urgency. "We need to face it. We can't let it control us." Maria's breath caught. Could they really confront their fears? The thought felt impossible, terrifying. But what choice did they have? Time was running out, and the shadows were closing in. Together, Maria whispered, heart hammering in her chest. "We face them together." The group huddled closer, each of them shaking with the weight of shared dread, but clinging to their determination. The shadows advanced, claws outstretched, ready to tear apart their resolve. As the darkness surged, a glimmer flickered at the core of Maria's being, unfurling into a fierce light. But just as they were ready to confront their truths, a deafening roar resonated, echoing through the cavern like a thunderous judgment waiting to fall. What consequences lay ahead once they chose to face their darkest fears? The answers dangled just out of reach. As the shadows lunged forward, Maria braced herself, the tremors of fear and adrenaline coursing through her veins. As the shadows lunged, she felt the pull of those specters, the weight of grief clawing at her heart. With a surge of courage, she lifted her chin. "We can't let it take us," she shouted, her voice stronger than her shaking knees. The shadows halted, caught by her defiance. They hesitated, swirling around, assessing them as if debating whether they were prey or adversaries. Maria's heart thundered in her chest as she looked at her friends. Eduardo, Sebastián, Emilia, and Miguel. They were terrified, but they shared an unspoken bond of solidarity. This was about more than just them. It was about confronting everything they had buried deep inside. Maria, what do we do? Sebastián's voice cracked, his bravado slipping. Face them. We have to face them together, she urged, her words stirring a storm in the gloomy cavern. Welling up from within her, she felt the light flicker again, more intense this time, pushing against the darkness. Stop, cried the figure, its grin shifting, revealing sharp teeth that gleamed like blades. You think your light can save you? Your fears are your chains. No, they're not chains. There are truths, Maria retorted, stepping forward. She could feel a warm pulse igniting in her chest, feeding off the strength of her friend's resolve. Let us shine together. Emilia stepped beside her, trembling but determined. I can't keep pretending I'm okay. I'm scared of losing my family, she screamed, tears streaming down her face. The shadows flickered at her confession, pulling back slightly, as if reacting to her vulnerability. I'm afraid of being judged, Miguel cried out, fists clenching at his sides. Of never being enough. The shadows twisted and convulsed, as if the confessions were unraveling their grip. The figure snarled, fury etched on its grotesque face. Your pain is my power. I will never allow this. But with each revelation, the group stood firmer. Eduardo shouted, I fear never living the life I want. I won't let you claim that. Your shadows can't control us. Sebastián roared, pushing back against the encroaching darkness. With each confession, the light within Maria expanded, shooting rays into the shadows, illuminating their twisted forms. The air grew warm as comfort began to seep through, mingling with the tension. And then, a blinding burst erupted from the center of their union. The shadows shrieked and recoiled, revealing the cavernous hidden countenance, a majestic spiral of crystalline formations, reflecting colors like 1,000 rainbows. Oh my God, Emilia breathed, awe mingling with fear. The figure's face twisted in rage, but Maria could see cracks in its facade, like the sharp edges of its shadow were fraying. No, you cannot escape this place. You will always belong to me. We belong to each other, Maria declared, stepping closer, coal-black eyes locked on the figure. We will not let you steal our fears anymore. With a unison cry, they stepped deeper into the glow of their shared light, pushing against the shadows. The figure screeched, a high-pitched wail that echoed throughout the cavern, threatening to block out their voices. Maria took one last breath, filled with fire and determination. As the roar of shadows closed in around them, she could feel the power surging through her. Together, face our fears and we will be free. Then a profound silence fell. The shadows halted, frozen in time, suspended by the sheer intensity of their light. For a heartbeat, everything felt possible. But then, the ground beneath them trembled. The figure's mouth twisted into a sinister smile. You think this is over? You have only just awakened the true darkness. The cavern trembled, and bright fissures began to crack in the rock walls. Maria's heart sank. The shadows were shifting, gathering strength unlike anything they had faced before. What would the true darkness reveal? The answer loomed as the earth shook violently. The cavern shuddered beneath their feet like it was alive, angry at the declaration of their unity. Maria and her friends stood their ground, but the growing tremors rattled their resolve. What's happening? Edouard gasped, eyes darting around the mesmerizing crystals, each reflecting their fear and determination. We're awakening something because we dared to confront our fears, Maria shouted above the chaos, pushing her own doubts aside. But we can't back down. We've come this far. The dark figure swirled in the shadows, twisting and reshaping as the ground roared, threatening to swallow them whole. Sudden blasts of air surged through the cavern, sending dust and debris swirling like the last desperate breaths of a dying storm. They don't want you here, the figure hissed, its voice laced with venom. They will rise and claim what's theirs. A doubt threaded through Maria's mind. Could facing their fears really be enough? Fear and fury twisted within her. She was tired of being afraid. We're not here to take, we're here to reclaim, she shouted defiantly, clenching her fists. Together, we can wield our light against your darkness. With every word, they drew strength from one another. I want to run from my mistakes, Miguel shouted, standing tall. I want to hide from my failures. Me neither, Emilia shouted, her voice gaining the strength of their shared resolve. I embrace my pain. It's a part of me, but it doesn't define me. Yes. Maria felt the surge of unity deep in her core, pulsing with a luminous energy. It filled the dark space around them, casting away shadows as they proclaimed their truths. It became a shield, an impenetrable barrier against that which sought to devour them. I fear being forgotten. Sebastian joined in, his yell fierce and unyielding. But I will make my story known. The figure screeched, writhing in agony as bursts of light pulsed from their clustered forms, spiraling like a torrent of fire through the thrumming ground. The shadows began to falter, retreating against the sheer force of their light. Together, Maria shouted, and they all joined hands, their fingers interlocking like a thread, binding their individual strengths into one powerful tapestry of hope. They conjured everything they had faced. Every doubt and fear transformed into a crown of resilience as they took a single step toward the dark figure. The cavern quaked anew, and raw energy flowed through their combined hands, a radiant glow that lit up the shadows like the sunrise chasing away the night. The figure writhed, eyes lighting with rage and disbelief. You think mere light can contain darkness? I know it can, Maria yelled, and in a burst of energy, they surged forward, throwing everything they had toward that darkness. The air crackled as their brightness surged against the black maw trying to swallow them. Together, they thrust forward with unimaginable force. The cavern walls exploded with light, giving way to the truths they had anointed, illuminating the world around them. The figure shrieked in deafening fury as the shimmering light enveloped it, disintegrating its form and sending echoes of despair rippling through the shadows. 1 moment later, there was silence. The glow settled into the walls, filling the cavern with flickering lights like stars twinkling in a perfect night sky. Hope blossomed all around, reflecting their victory on every polished surface. Heartbeats slowed, breaths steadied, and they gazed around them with wonder. We did it, Eduardo breathed, relief washing over him like a tidal wave. We really did it. Maria clutched her friends, shaking with emotions spilling like tears. It was all of us, she said, pulling back to meet their eyes. Every single one of us. And they remembered the village. San Pedro had been the heart of their struggle and conflict, their home, tangled in despair. We need to go back, Maria urged, her voice steady with purpose. We can't leave everything behind. The desert still threatens our village. As if sensing their thoughts, the cavernous ceiling shimmered and began to reveal a breach, an opening that glowed in welcoming warmth. That's our way out, Sebastian grinned. Let us go home. With new hope, they stepped forward, holding tightly onto one another. As they emerged back into the stormy world, the winds howled in fury, but the sands shifted beneath their feet, no longer a living beast but merely an echo of what had once housed fear and dread. The storm settled, and just like that, the horizon opened up, a beautiful vista of blue skies breaking free from the angry clouds. And as they stood together, hands gripped tightly, Maria felt the peace that came with loving her truth. No matter the form it took, it was time to rebuild. Together, just as they had faced the darkness, they would face the day anew. And although challenges would come, they carried the strength of hope, no longer afraid of the sands creeping closer, but ready to rise, shining like sunlit warriors reclaiming their land. Resilience anchored in their hearts as they turned toward the village. It was up to them to teach others, to forge connections, to listen to the whispers of the land. For they had learned that true power lay not in fleeing but in facing what lay beneath the surface. As they walked, hand in hand, the promise of dawn awaited just ahead. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about how you would face your own fears. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. It's time to support the community that's helping us all grow. Stand with us through your actions.